Good morning and welcome to Apex Online Racing. We're here today for the 7th round of the 3rd season of the Oceania League here on F1 2018. My name's Alex, some of you might know me as Curly. It's bright and early on a Sunday morning. I'm certainly feeling this one, but it can only mean one thing. It's time to kick the day off with some great action around this beautiful circuit here in Montreal, Canada. And well, what a great race it was last time out in Monaco. Real thriller of a race actually, and yeah, we had a couple phenomenal drives out there. Some really good performances from some of the drivers, namely Stuart McKenzie being one that really had a great day, and we'll look to kick on from that. But yeah, I mean, we've had some fantastic racing so far this season. Pretty much every single race has delivered in some way, and yeah, I'm hoping for more of that. Certainly seems the swap over to F1 2018 and you know, this game coming out has definitely improved the quality of the racing compared to what we had in the first and second seasons on F1 2017. So as we're just watching the drivers set their opening qualifying laps, and around this circuit there's one thing that's really stuck in the drivers' minds before and during their qualifying laps is start running a little bit deep there through the second chicane. But the one thing that will be on all the drivers' minds is track limits. Staying within those white lines around the circuit is somewhat tricky. There are going to be a lot of penalties picked up in the race and a lot of invalidated lap times in qualifying, so it's not just about being fast around this circuit, you've got to be clean as well. And I'm almost certain that, you know, multiple positions in the race will end up being decided on the number of penalties. We have seen a little bit of that so far this season, but this circuit really is yeah, it's really a sort of completely different beast in terms of track limits penalties, as we've got a couple times coming in. Norfolk Blue with a 7.8, that's a very good banker from the Renault driver. He's been very quick so far this season as well. But yeah, Stuart McKenzie just managing second there. We hop on board with Dubsy coming through the final chicane as well. And yeah, I mean, just this section of qualifying, you know, the opening run, really just about trying to get, you know, a clean lap in and just get something on the board, so that, you know, if you do end up invalidating laps or you know, making a mistake and crashing into one of the walls, which is, you know, pretty easy to do around this circuit. The walls are very close, and you know, there are a number of there are a number of points where you want to be getting very close to them, as Dubsy does right there, perfect timing. But yeah, I mean, you know, it's quite easy to mess up a qualifying lap around here. So on your opening lap, you really just have to get some kind of time on the board. Ooh, that's not how you go about it though. Dubsy's missed his braking point. He's got to go straight on, and he'll have to back out of that lap. His teammate MLJH is about to cross the line. Where will he go? No, he's about to start a lap, and we'll get some telemetry up there for you as well. So yeah, a couple guys on the super softs. Now that leads me to believe that they're going to qualify on the ultras. Strategy is very interesting around here as well. Montreal is not a circuit with a huge amount of tire wear. You know, typically it's a track where you can run quite a lot of laps on pretty much any set of tires, and a one stop is definitely possible here, even from the hypersoft tires. You can do hypersoft, super soft, and make it to the end of the race. Maybe some concerns in terms of tire wear right at the end, but you should be okay to do that. Obviously, ultra soft, super soft is, you know, doable as well, and that's a very quick strategy. I think in terms of raw race pace, the ultra soft, super soft might be the quickest strategy out there. But you sacrifice some track position, albeit this is not necessarily the hardest track to overtake at. And there's a couple of decent opportunities around here in the slipstream around this circuit, with 3 DRS zones, so many straights. The slipstream is huge. So for the drivers, I think that you know, in the race they've got to be sticking in that train, and if you are in the train, you're going to get such a huge help just by getting in the tow of the cars ahead of you, and you know, both of the staying in the tow of the car in front and getting the DRS, and then that triple you know, helping of DRS is going to make a huge difference to those guys in the race. But yeah, I mean, you know, those one stops are also you know, they're both very viable, but also the two stop strategy really for the first time this season in a meaningful way is quite a strong strategy. A couple people I've spoken to, not necessarily in this league but in other leagues, thinking about doing a two-stop, thinking about doing hypers and 2 sets of ultra softs perhaps, and take that to the end. And the reason why that might be viable is the length of the pit lane. Most circuits, a pit stop will cost you around about 20 to 22 seconds on track time. It does vary from circuit to circuit. Some tracks it's a little bit longer than that. But Canada has one of the shortest pit lane times, I think the shortest pit lane time of the entire season. And that's because when you pit, you end up skipping the entire final chicane and also the first 2 corners. So realistically, making a pit stop here only costs you about 14-15 seconds on track. So you can do a second stop and you don't have as much ground to make up as you would normally at most circuits. So yes, we do have yellow flags out there in sector 3 somewhere. Not quite sure whereabouts that is. So we'll hop back with Maznap. But yeah, do also have a note on the weather. Thanks to both Maznat and Stuart McKenzie that have messaged about that. We are expecting a little bit of rain at the start of the race and then for it to dry out towards the middle part of the race. So yeah, I mean, this is interesting. It makes me question a little bit why we've got some guys possibly out there on the super soft tires actually. I would assume the drivers all knowing that it's wet, maybe they don't know, maybe they've not checked, that they will all qualify on the hypersoft compound tire and then will likely start on the intermediates. But who knows, I mean, it could be light enough rain at the start of the race that it might still be a slick tire start. In that case, it would be very, very interesting to see. But yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's a tough situation for those guys that have planned perhaps on qualifying on ultra softs. There will have been a couple of those guys, and you get into the session and suddenly it's going to rain at the start of the race, and that whole strategy and all the practice that you've done for that strategy kind of goes out of the windows, and then you've got to set lap times on a tire that you haven't really practiced on. So for those guys, it's just about getting something good together. As Mazda has a bit of a lock up there into the hairpin. Ooh, he clips the wall on exit as well. A little bit scruffy there from the reigning champion. He's not had a great season, it's got to be said, so far. He's missed a few races, not quite had the results that he would have wanted. So yeah, really needs to get things properly kickstarted here if he wants any hope of being anywhere near the title come the end of the season. I will just get the championship standings for you guys. Just some updates on that after Monaco. Yeah, at the moment we've got Norfolk Blue leading the way. Stuart McKenzie has improved on his time. He's gone up to an 8.0. So getting closer to the Renault driver, but not quite. Pure Axel with an 8.5. That's a pretty good lap from him so far. So he's about to start another one. Coming through turns 1 and then 2. Runs a bit deep through 2 though. Quite a lot of short shifting there as well. I'm not entirely sure if he's backed out of this one or not. I mean, he still says he's in hot lap. It does appear as if he's up on his time. So yeah, he's short shifting a lot, at least on my screen. Not revving the car out at all. Big moment of oversteer. Just wanted to pause for a second and watch that corner. And that's perhaps the most difficult part of the circuit, at least in my opinion. Very, very unstable with that inside curb, and then on exit the car just wants to get away from you out there. But Pure Axel with a huge moment of opposite lock, but he does manage to keep it just about intact, and then through the final chicane. Very, very quick through there, especially on this game. You've really got to throw it in there. He's not able to improve though. It's an 8.6, but he can't quite match his previous time. I think he's going to go for a second lap, which he can do on these Hypersoft tires. It's especially considering they're not going to use these tires towards the start of the race, or at least they think that with the rain. They shouldn't have any problems in doing 2 laps in a row on the Hypersofts. And you know, sometimes the second lap, when you've got the tires just a bit more warmed up, can be a little bit quicker. So we'll see if Pure Axel has a better run through this chicane this time. Oh, he definitely does, uses every inch of track. I think he might have even clipped the wall slightly on exit there, but that was pretty much perfect through there, right down to first gear. And then a lot of short shifting coming out of the hairpin. So yeah, I mean, that's very interesting. Lots and lots of short shifting from Pure Axel. Oh, he's about to run out of energy though. And that'll cost him a bit of time as he flings it into the final chicane. And is he going to improve? Oh, he doesn't. I think did he invalidate that somewhere? I think he might have. Dubsy improves to 4th. He's 1,000th off a 3rd. That's very, very close. Just missing out there. Of course, these guys still got one more run to go. It's Contrast now, making his way through the second sector. But yeah, I was going to get the championship standings on the go for you guys. So yeah, so obviously with Norfolk Blue winning last time out in Monaco, he had a really dominant drive, and you know, obviously James H putting it in the wall early on, that caused a safety car, and then Stuart McKenzie, you know, had such a great race in Spain, and it's kind of kicked on a bit this season from previous seasons. You know, he kind of got jammed behind a few cars after the safety car, and at that point Norfolk Blue just stormed off and ended up with a big lead. Drove very, very well, of course, but yeah, it was a bit of a dominant victory. At least the the gap at the end of the race looked was much bigger than perhaps what the relative pace between the top 3 showed. But yeah, with his win, so just run it down. Stuart McKenzie isn't first in the championship. He's been incredibly consistent this season. His lowest finishing position is 4th. To put that into perspective. So yeah, he's been incredibly consistent. He's on 97 points. James H, who's currently missing from this qualifying session, we're hoping to have him in for the race, but we're not quite sure if he's going to be able to make it in time. So he may actually be missing from this event. But he's in second with 85 points. Then Frio's in third with 65. We've got Norfolk Blue, with just the 3 races, 58 points already. He's had an incredible start to his AOR career. He's up there with 58 points. Contrast in 5th with 56. Stylen with 47. And then we got Pete, Dubsy, LGB, and MLGH making up the rest of the top 10. So yeah, I mean, it's been quite close this season. The names up at the top of the board are definitely very, very different from what they have been in the past. I mean, the first 2 seasons really were pretty much dominated by Maznad and Dubsy, whereas this season has been, you know, things have been completely turned on their head. Dubsy's down there in 8th in the championship. You know, Maznad is sitting in 16th, albeit he has missed a lot of the races. Good to see him back on the grid today, but yeah, I mean, those guys are, you know, both, well, I mean, Maznad's the reigning champion, Dubsy former champion, and they're kind of nowhere in the championship at the moment. So if they want any kind of hope of stringing things together, they really need to start picking up big points and quickly. But yeah, it's something that they need to do, otherwise that gap up to the front is just going to get way too big. The good news is for this season, there are lots of drivers that are capable of winning races, you know, and lots of drivers that are capable of getting on the podium, so there's plenty of opportunity for drivers to take points off of each other. So don't think just because somebody is leading right now that it's going to stay that way through the next 14 races. But yeah, we're still waiting on another lap time from Norfolk Blue. Stuart McKenzie not quite able to improve on that run, as Axel's going to go for another run here, and this is the drivers beginning to start their final qualifying laps, really. They're not going to have time to go back into the pits, so this is the final runs, and this will be for grid position here in Canada. Ooh, clipping the wall there. I've seen that from quite a few drivers, just sort of understeering into that wall, and it's a funny thing on this game. If you hit the wall completely side on, you can kind of get away with it a bit. you don't really get any damage. Of course, we've done what that camera angle is. But yeah, I mean, it's just the front wing damage on this game. So if you do hit the wall, it's best to hit it completely side on so that you're not hitting it with the front of your car, and then you can get away without any kind of damage to your car at all. So yeah, there are 1 or 2 spots on this circuit where you can certainly get away with that, and I think we saw that at Monaco a bit as well. You know, drivers clipping walls fairly often, but not picking up damage for it, as Pure Axel has absolutely flattened the curb on the first half of that final chicane, and he's not able to improve. And that's his session over, so Pure Axel is done. Stuart McKenzie is on his outlap. Dubsy, sorry, this is Contrast. Dubsy and Contrast, who else have we got? Maznaz had to back out of his lap, I think. He's not going to be able to set another one, so Maznaz is at best 6th place. Who else have we got? Wimpernator coming into the 3rd sector, so we'll keep an eye on him. He had his best finish of the season so far in Monaco, 6th place there, so we're looking to kick on from that. Very, very quick in the past. If you're new to watching this league, Wimpernator came in well, really the end of season 1, and I think also the end of season 2, and just he started a lot of races from, you know, the back and came through to 3rd, 4th, 5th place, as Wimpernator does put it up to 6th place with an 8.8, so he improves in quite a big way. Contrast, though, not really able to make too much headway up the board. He stays 5th. Dubsy, can he get himself up closer to pole position as he crosses the line? It is closer, but it's an 8-0. It's not quite pole. Stuart McKenzie locks up massively, though. He was 1.5 tenths up on his time, and he's absolutely rinsed the wall there. He gives up on that one. That's not going to turn out to be anything good. He locked up massively, lost a huge amount of time, and then pushed a bit too hard on the exit, and is careered into the wall there. So Stuart McKenzie at best going to start 3rd. Got anybody else that's on a lap? Darren. He is on one. He's on the ultra softs as well. I don't think that Darren's realized that there's rain at the start of the race. I don't think he's actually. I don't think he's checked the weather, because everyone else is out there on the hypersoft tires, and he's out there on the ultras, trying to pull something smart on the strategy, but it's not going to end up working for him, as Darren improves to P6 with an 8.5 on the ultrasoft tire. That's a very, very good time from Darren. We have seen that a couple times from him this season, qualifying on the middle compound tire and being very, very quick on it. So, I mean, it's a very good lap, but if it does start on inters, he's going to be kicking himself with that. But yeah, that's a very, very impressive lap time, though. Well done to him for that. But yeah, okay, so as we're just about done with qualifying, everybody has completed their final laps. Contrast just running down the time here a bit. As the drivers prepare themselves for some wet racing here in Montreal. We're not sure how heavy the rain is going to be. We know it's going to clear up during the race at some point, so we're going to have to keep an eye out for that. But yeah, the qualifying session is done, and it's Norfolk Blue on pole with a very good lap. He said that at the start of the session, and then didn't improve on it throughout the rest of the session. So, you know, maybe a bit more pace in the tank as well, I think, for Norfolk Blue. But yeah, there we go. He is on pole position with a 107.8. Dubsy nabs 2nd place at the end of the session. Stuart McKenzie in 3rd, and alongside him is Pure Axel. Then we've got Contrast and Darren 5th and 6th. Wimpernator and Maznat 7th and 8th, and Entei and Frio 9th and 10th. Now, the first guys with the free territories, if it is dry enough for it, which I'm doubting, it's probably going to be an intermediate start, is Rumble. They're in 11th, and we've got MLJH, Chucky, LJB, P. Crichton, and Pega making up the rest of the grid. Tire grid within 2 seconds there, so that's quite nice to see. But yeah, I'm just really excited to see what happens with this start, and whether we're going to be starting on the intermediates or if it's going to be one of those you know, dry tires and damp conditions you know, races. The rain is, well, it doesn't look too heavy. It's certainly raining, but it's more of a sprinkling than it is a downpour at the moment. So who knows? Perhaps we'll get something interesting on this strategy. I mean, obviously on F1 2017, there was a bit of a strange situation on that game where the hardest tires would be fastest in damp conditions. I don't actually know if that's the case on this game. We'll keep an eye out for it. I would assume not with the tire temperatures as we get the formation lap underway. And yeah, so it is a start on the dry tires. This is going to be a really, really interesting race start. Don't go anywhere. This is going to be really fun. So all these guys, yeah, this is something you can't really practice for, to be honest. There's no real way to practice for this. You can practice in the dry, you can practice in the wet, but practicing in conditions between dry and wet, that's an absolute nightmare. And I think as well, for these guys starting on the super softs, look at this, everybody outside the top 10, Rumble, MLG, Shuki, LJB, P. Cretin and Piga, they've all gone for the super soft compound tire. They're going to have a really hard time getting temperature in those tires. You just see that the rain is just sprinkling there, so it's going to be really tough for these guys to actually get the temperature into the tires for the race start. You can see Rumble just working the wheel as much as he possibly can, just try and get some heat into the tires. So yeah, I would expect to see the Hypersoft guys pull away a bit at the start of this race. One, just because it's a faster compounded tire, but two, they should have a much easier time getting a bit of temperature into them. As we're watching the drivers, Norfolk Blue doing his best to try and set a quick pace, but he's kind of left Dubsy behind. Dubsy does need to speed up a little bit. He is technically meant to stay within 10 car lengths, I think, to the guys in front. As the drivers start to line up on the grid positions for what is conditions that we don't get very often, is dry tires on a damp track. Going to be a lot of drivers out there struggling for temperature. It's probably going to be very messy here on the opening couple of laps. So here we go. It is the 7th round of the 3rd season of AOR Oceania here on PS4, as we're about to rev up to 5 lights, and here we go. Norfolk Blue on your right, Dubsy on your left in the Ferrari. And it is lights out, and away we go in Montreal. It's a brilliant start for Dubsy. He's gone away so well off the line. He's going to challenge Norfolk Blue into turn 1, but he's gone completely straight on. He's locked up entirely. He's missed the corner completely. He's going to have to rejoin. That's going to get messy with some of the cars coming around. They've all got to avoid him now as Dubsy goes straight on at turn 1. He loses multiple positions. Norfolk Blue hangs on to that lead as they're just about 3 wide. There's cars absolutely everywhere. So there we got Maznat and Pure Axel side by side as well, coming into the second chicane here, as Maznat storms up the inside trying to maintain that position. He does a very good job of it, and now Pure Axel's got to worry about Entei behind him, who gets a great run but not able to capitalize on it. And he's now got Rumble up the inside of him, trying to get something done. He's up from 11th. Is he going to nab 8th place? I think he is. He just about gets the move done, and will hold it on the traction though. Yes, he does. So yeah, pretty chaotic start there. I think they were 3 or 4 wide into turn 1 at one point, as the drivers all just struggling on the brakes, damp conditions. You're going to have cold tires, cold brakes, very, very easy to catch a lock-up and go straight on, as we saw with Dubsy, as Maznat trying to get past Pure Axel. He's going to have a hard time going around the outside there. Got to focus on the exit. Oh, runs very deep though, almost into the wall of champions. He just kind of belonged there after his championship last season, but yeah, he's just about avoided that. He's got a car looking up his inside now. That's Rumble on the super soft tires, and hey, maybe once again we're seeing a situation where these harder compound tires are working really well, because Rumble is absolutely flying. He's made up 3 positions already as they both go wide through turn 4 there. And oh god, there's a bit of front wing missing. Maznat doing his best to try and avoid that. He's lost a lot of positions as they're all scrambling down here at the back of the grid. Look at this 2x2x2 coming through the middle sector. all getting a little bit messy. It's going to be difficult for these guys to avoid each other, especially in difficult conditions like this. Really is, I think, the hardest possible conditions to start the race in. They've been mostly good so far in terms of, well, at least attempting to avoid each other. We've only just had Wimpinator in the pits, though we did see a little bit of front wing broken off from this pack as well, as yeah, it's all just, well, there's cars everywhere, and they're all trying to pass each other on the brakes, and got people locking up, and yeah, it's all getting a bit chaotic, as Maznat battling hard with Chucky. These guys on the Supersoft seem to be doing pretty well. We got Entei very close to Dubsy. Dubsy, who's fallen back quite a lot off of that start. He's going to try and work his way back up the field. And a little bit further back down, as we've got the guys battling once again just on the edge of the points, scrapping over 11th and 12th here. As Pete Crichton just about gets that 12th position, and now Maznat coming under fire from Piga, who sweeps it all the way around the outside. He's not made that move stick though. As Rumble has retired from the race. Now whereabouts is his car? Oh, there it is. Right in the middle of the circuit. He's lost his wheel. I don't know if that was contact with another car, or if he's just lost that into the wall, but yeah, Rumble is out of this race. He had an absolutely phenomenal start on the super soft tires, but I think he's pushed something a little bit too far. Whoa, there's big contact there. Maznat, I think, is locked up, and he is into the side of another car. He's lost a huge amount of front wing. Look at that on the front right of his car. He's going to have to pit, surely, to get that replaced. Is Sir LJB possibly down the inside on Piga? He shows the nose, give it a little bit of space, try and get something done on traction. We'll go a little further up because Entei's trying to make a move on Dubsy. Entei with some really good pace in these conditions. He's liking it. Is it going to go side by side through the final chicane? What a move from Entei on the brakes. And he does just about get it done. Dubsy's going to try and fight it back into turn one. So possibly going to go side by side into there. Dubsy does hold it down the inside as Entei is very, very sideways. In fact, he's way too sideways. And Dubsy does an amazing job to avoid contact there. Wow. Entei was completely out of control with that car, totally sideways, and Dubsy somehow avoiding it. It had to go all the way onto the grass, but yeah, he's done a great job with that, and he might have lost a position, but at least he holds on to his front wing, and a lot of time from not having a spin there, as we got Pete Crichton now trying to get the move done on Entei, and he's trying to hold it all the way around the outside. They're going to be side by side now, coming underneath the bridge as he swings to the inside, putting a lot of pressure on the McLaren driver, but he isn't able to get the move done, and he's made a bit of a mistake. He's coming under pressure now from Piga and LJB, who are going to be side by side into the hairpin, as Piga's quite late on the brakes. LJB trying to carry it all the way around the outside, and he does just about do it. He does. Wow, phenomenal traction for Sir LJB, and he gets that done. And look at this, further up the field. So once again, we're seeing F1 2018 similar to F1 2017. The harder compounds of tires, the guys on these tires, the Ultrasofts or the Supers, they've got the pace. They're doing better than the guys on the Hypers. Darren setting the fastest lap of the race there, and he's now right up behind Contrast. They're going to be battling for the podium pretty soon. And of course, these tires can go much further into the race than the Hypersofts can as well. The Hypersofts probably going to be able to go, you know, 8-9 laps is just about as much as they'll manage. And then these guys will be putting on some Supersofts probably and heading to the end. But, you know, Darren's Ultrasofts will probably be able to go 13, 14, maybe even 15 laps into this race. As he's right up behind Contrast, he's going to have to look for a... Wow, that was quicker than I thought it was going to be. And he's flung it up the inside. Bit of contact between the two of them. Not sure Contrast will be too happy with that, as they're going to go side by side possibly into the final chicane. Contrast just about ahead a little bit, but Darren's much later on the brakes, and he does get the move done. Those Ultrasofts working really well, and he's onto the podium. He's looking further forward now. He's got a couple seconds. There we go. He's overtaking Contrast. He still gets another fastest lap, although Pure Axel does beat that out. But yeah, Darren really flying. He'll be looking up the road to Stewart now, and so the penalties are starting to come in too. That's another thing we're going to have to try and keep track of. But yeah, a little further down, Got a bit of a train starting to form behind Dubsy. A couple cars battling here as the McLarens going at each other. LJB gets the move done now. It does look like the rain has stopped, so this track is starting to dry out. That might be why we're seeing the lap times improving. But yeah, for these guys now, it's getting back into that dry condition. Yeah, there we go. Maznat setting the fastest lap. He's lost a lot of time. He had to make that extra pit stop, of course. So he's right down there at the back of the field on the ultra soft tires. He'll be hoping for some kind of safety car or something to get him back in the running. But you know, who knows, if he has some good pace from here on out, he still might be able to catch up. He's about 20 seconds, a little bit more than 20 seconds off the points, which isn't an insurmountable gap in 30 laps. As Entei has had a huge spin out of the hairpin there, and yeah, that's not looking too happy for him. He's completely lost it, and he's going to have to get that car back into the pits. He's going to have to be careful as well. Wimpinator nearly collects him on the exit, but yeah, he's going to need to make a pit stop for that one. That's cost him a huge amount of time. He's going to drop all the way to the back of the field. He's called it a day, I think, Entei. Not happy with himself there, but yeah, contrast just starting to fall off the back of Darren, although interestingly, now that it's stopped raining and the track is beginning to dry, Darren's not really making too much headway on Stuart McKenzie, although I think that might partly be because Stuart is beginning to catch Norfolk for the lead of the race. These guys were, you know, two of the quickest guys in Monaco last time out, and they're looking that way again. First and second, and then Darren will be hoping that these guys' tires begin to fall off a little bit. Stuart needs to try and get himself within that DRS window. It'll be worth, you know, 3-4 tenths per lap if he can just get himself in that 1 second margin. Do have a little bit of battling further down the field. Chucky getting the move done on Pete Crichton. These guys all on the super soft tires going long into this race. They'll try and take it past the halfway point. Probably go until about lap 20 or 21 and then put on a set of ultra softs and run them to the end. But yeah, I mean, these guys, they've got a long way to go. The super soft is a good race tire though. You push very hard on it and it doesn't really overheat, and doesn't have too much tire wear either, so you can really put in some consistent lap times as the lap times are continually falling. I think they will continue to do so a little bit as Maznat puts in into the 113s now, but there we go. Stuart McKenzie, he does have the DRS, so he has gotten himself within that 1 second margin, and that's going to help him massively close up to Norfolk Blue and start to put a bit of pressure on our race leader. These guys are pulling away from the guys behind them now, coming into, you know, kind of leaving the road in these damn conditions. Bit of a lock up there from Stewart, but he does get the car slowed down. Ooh, clips the curb, has a moment of oversteer. He's able to correct it though. So we will hop our way back to Pete because he's right on the back of Chucky, and he's got LJB close behind him. These guys scrapping over the bottom end of the points, all on their super soft tires, but they're getting very close. Pete thinks about flipping it up the inside of turn 2, and thinks better of it. Probably a good idea there. So we'll make our way back up towards the battle for the lead here. So we're just sitting 9 tenths behind at the moment. Just got to keep himself within that DRS really, and then he can hope to get something done towards the pit stop window. Maybe will be his thoughts. And does he still have the DRS? He does. You know, get a double helping down this sort of main straight here, and then also he'll get one along the pit straight. Mr. LGB nabs a penalty. That's going to be a main thing for the drivers here as well. You know, a few penalties around this circuit, very easy to pick up, and it's, you know, it makes such a huge difference in terms of track position come the end of the race. Especially in that midfield group, a couple penalties can cost you 3, 4, or 5 positions come the end of the race, so we'll keep an eye on it. Stuart McKenzie is keeping himself within that DRS range. He's not quite close enough to get any kind of move done. So Norfolk Blue will know that he's there, but he's probably not imminently worried about an overtake coming from Stewart, as these guys have managed to run 10 laps so far on their hypersoft tires. So possibly thinking about a pit stop soon onto the super softs. We'll see if either of these two is the first one to take that gamble. The problem for them will be it's a balancing act. Whoa! A huge moment of oversteer for Stewart. He does a good job to catch that. Loses quite a lot of time though to Norfolk Blue, but yeah, it's a balancing act. I mean, the super softs at this point might be a bit quicker, but the issue for them is they're going to pit back into a lot of traffic, and I don't think either one of them really wants to do that. The tires seem to be holding on pretty nicely, so these guys continue on. Norfolk Blue and Sir Mackenzie stretching their legs out of the front of this field. Darren is, well, he's really got no answer to them, as we got our first couple of cars in the pits. Contrast and Pure Axle's going on to the super softs. What does Contrast go for? It's the super soft tires as well. So these guys are both going for the one stop. They're going to the end from here. We'll see if they're able to get any kind of undercut done on the likes of Darren, possibly. We'll see what lap times that they can put in. We do still have some more battling. They're going to be very close to some of these guys, I think, leaving the pits. Whereabouts is Pure Axle coming out? He's just behind this group, and Contrast has got himself out just in front of it. So that's a perfect pit stop from Contrast, and he's got himself a nice gap of clean air as well, 5 seconds ahead of him that he can push into. Great job from the Toro Rosso boys to get him out in that gap, as Stewart's getting very close now to Norfolk Blue. We'll see if either of these two will blink into the pits. They should have. Let's have a look at the gap to leader. I imagine that they would come out just ahead of Frio, so they might actually have some clean track as Norfolk Blue moves to the inside, and they both pit. So we have a bit of a pit lane battle here between Renault and Force India. See if Force India are able to do anything to jump Stuart Mackenzie up ahead of Norfolk Blue. There's a good opportunity here for them as they hop onto the super soft compound tire. So does Norfolk Blue. But is he going to come out in front? No, Norfolk Blue does hang on. And whereabouts is Frio? It's going to be quite close to them. I think they might... No, it's going to be very, very close to Frio, actually. Coming out of the pit lane. Oh, and crucially, Norfolk Blue gets a car between himself and Stuart Mackenzie. Stuart Mackenzie is going to look for the inside, possibly. Oh, Frio lets him go. He doesn't want anything to do with that lead battle. Stuart Mackenzie picks up a penalty for his troubles. So that's a big concern for him. But yeah, I mean, he does manage to get that move done. Frio just didn't want any part of it. Probably smart for him. It's not really his race. He lets them go. See Frio once again running the longest on a set of tires. I've seen that a couple times this season so far, so who knows what he's planning on strategy today. Maybe a set of ultra softs. We'll see what he goes for. It was very interesting to see what he does, but yeah, Stewart right up behind Norfolk Blue, still in that slipstream. So these guys with some really good pace, trying to get a lot of work done in this race. Contrast is giving himself a huge gap back to Axel, as LJB running pretty deep as Chucky has retired from the race. I haven't quite caught what's happened there. Let's see if we can get any idea from Dubsy's perspective. I have no idea where enough his car is. It's somewhere in the wall, I think before the hairpin, but yeah, not quite sure what's happened to him there. But yeah, back to this battle for the net lead. It's Norfolk Blue and Stuart Mackenzie. Just 4/10 between them at the moment. Nothing lock up. Stuart Mackenzie into this corner. He has seemed to struggle with this a little bit from what we've seen on board so far. We're starting qualifying as well. Stubbsy sets the fastest lap of the race on the super soft compound tire. Just 4/10 between them, and Stuart I think he has at least one extra penalty, possibly two. I think he has two penalties for sure. I don't know how many Norfolk Blue has. But yeah, for Stewart, I mean, I think if he wants to win this race, I think he needs to pass Norfolk Blue and hope that he can maybe pull some kind of a gap. He's closing quite a lot with the slipstream and the DRS. He gets a very nice run through the final chicane as well. He's right up on the back of Norfolk Blue. Here we go. Around the outside, possibly into turn one. Stuart Mackenzie is making his move, and they're going to go side by side through turn one. He gets the inside for turn two, crucially, and Norfolk Blue isn't able to do anything about it, and Stuart McKenzie takes the lead of this race. He might need to defend, though, possibly. No, not quite. So he does get the lead of this race, and now it's just about, can he break the slipstream to Norfolk Blue? It's very, very difficult to do around this circuit. The toe is worth a lot of time, and then the triple DRS as well makes it incredibly difficult to pull away from the car behind. But Stuart McKenzie has got to try it if he wants to win this, because I'm pretty sure he's got an extra penalty, at least at this point. So obviously there's a long way to go. Norfolk Blue might pick some up as well, but yeah, Stuart's got to try something to pull away from this Renault, but Norfolk Blue's not giving it up at the moment, staying very, very close, and he won't mind being in this position. Maybe allow him to save a bit of fuel and tires as well, being the following car. As Frio has continued on for a 13th lap on the Hypersoft, so yeah, he's I think he probably will look towards a set of Ultrasofts maybe. Almost want to pull off some very interesting strategies, but Darren is in the pits now. He's bailed off of his Ultrasoft tires. I'm assuming we'll see him in the pits for, I'm assuming we'll see him onto a set of the Supersofts. Yes, we do. So Darren goes for those, keeping an eye on what Frio decides to go for. After running so long on those tires, he's gone for the super softs. Wow, so he's running very long, and he's just trying to give himself the freshest possible tires towards the latter part of this race. Now, where does Darren come out of the pits? He's in P4. Contrast has jumped him by quite a lot. He's quite a long way down the road, but Darren's still in P4, so that's a pretty good spot for him to be in. Frio leaves the pits in P7, and he's got the freshest tires of anybody. One car in front of him, LJB, still needs to pit as well. So, yeah, Frio in a pretty good spot at the moment. Looking for some very good points. We obviously got this battle for the lead, and I think Contrast and Darren might battle towards the end of the race. Darren with a considerable tire advantage, 4 laps, will give him a couple tenths per lap in terms of raw lap time. As Norfolk is getting a little bit closer. Oh, he's backing off of the ERS though. I think he's quite happy just to sit behind Stuart for a moment, save a little bit of fuel, save a bit of energy, save his tires, then maybe try to make a move towards the end of the race. Maybe just a little bit further into this stint as he sets the fastest lap of the race, 11.3. It's a solid time on the super soft tires, and making the most of that DRS resistance coming off of Stuart's car. So we're getting very, very close to the wall there. I think it might have even just slightly clipped it. But yeah, these guys quite a long way out in front. They've got 7.5 seconds back to Contrast, and they're pulling away. So yeah, once again, they're kind of in a little league of their own at the moment in this race, obviously, as well, with James not here. Maybe like one car up at the front of the grid, but here we go, Norfolk Blue around the outside into the hairpin. They're gonna battle it though. Stuart does not want to give this up at all. He really wants that track position, and they will go side by side. Stuart McKenzie picking up yet another penalty as we came through under the bridge. Norfolk Blue is looking for the inside though, and he's going to get this move done surely on the inside into the final chicane. And yeah, Stuart has to concede that position, although he should try and get him back into turn 1. This is great battling from these guys. They're getting very, very close to one another, but Stuart has no energy left. Look at that, he's really lacking in terms of what he can deploy, so he's just going to sit back and maybe save a bit of energy for a couple laps in the slipstream behind Norfolk Blue. So yeah, beginning to see a bit of a tactical game being played here in this Grand Prix between some of these drivers, realizing that, you know, it's quite easy to stick with a car in front. The slipstream is very, very strong, and you can maybe save a bit of fuel and energy behind another car, and then just kind of bank that up and then try to make a move. So we got Maznat picking up a penalty, down in 11th place. He's not too far behind Pete, but I think Maznat needs to make another pit stop, whereas, well, Pete might need to make another pit stop as well. Yeah, 5 laps on those tires so far done, so he would have to do, well, 23 laps on a set of Ultrasofts. I think that might be a bit much. So yeah, I think both these guys need to make a pit stop as well. Piggott in front of them is about 5 seconds up the road, but he needs to make a stop. And then LGB a little bit ahead of those guys, but as we've got Frio making the move on LJB, and he gets that done pretty easily coming into the hairpin. So Frio finds his way up into 6th. His next target is Pure Axel, who is a long, long way up the road. Frio gives a little wiggle. Don't worry, that's not a break slipstream or anything. I think that's just him saying thank you to LJB for not making things too difficult. obviously LGB realizing that Frio had, you know, far fresher tires, fresher by 14 laps, and yeah, just kind of letting him go there. Realized it wasn't really his race, and you know, LGB has got guys like Dubsy and Pega as well to possibly worry about, although Dubsy is likely taking those tires at the end of the race as well. He pit lap 10, so Supersoft should do about 25 laps. Stewart just hanging in that DRS Norfolk Blue, and look at that. So Norfolk has used basically all of his energy. He's running very low. We were on board with Stewart a few laps ago. He picks up another time penalty. He's going to be careful here. You know, I think that's 4, maybe 5 time penalties that Stewart's picked up, and if he isn't careful, if he doesn't really like rein it in, he's going to end up getting disqualified from this race. You know, I've seen it happen in Canada before. A couple times actually from different drivers, and yeah, it's, if you get 30 seconds of penalties in a race, you will get disqualified. So he's going to be careful of that, because he's going to be sitting about either 12 or 15 seconds at the moment, and we're only just past the halfway point of this race. So you know, Stuart McKenzie, it's not just about the positions he'll lose in terms of the points. He might lose all of his points from this, which would be a huge shame for him, because he's driving pretty well at the moment. You got to say, keeping up with Norfolk Blue. He's just straight across the white lines a little bit too much, but as he's right up on the back of Norfolk Blue now, I think he's looking for a move here, starting to use a bit more energy. He's trying to put Norfolk Blue under some pressure. And look at that, he's up to overtake mode now. He's very close. He's got the slipstream, he's got the DRS, and well, that move is very easy. Norfolk Blue does not have the energy to fight it with, and he will quite happily sit behind a little bit, and just follow Stuart McKenzie for a couple laps and let him charge his battery. So yeah, we're seeing the tactics come out. It's kind of reminding me of F1 2016 a little bit. The slipstream was so incredibly strong in that game, and there were all kind of mind games and fuel saving and strategies played around that slipstream, and you know, between different drivers, and it wasn't necessarily about if you could overtake, it was more about when you would overtake. Obviously F1 2017 changed that entirely. It was very difficult to pass on that game, but this one at least seems at certain tracks, especially here in Canada with the triple DRS, it's very easy to just stick behind a car and follow them in the slipstream. So yeah, there's going to be some strategy and some mind games here from these guys. As we're getting all kinds of time penalties. There's far too many time penalties for me to keep up with, to be honest. I think most of the grid at least has one. So looking a little bit further down the field, Contrast in third, 9.5 seconds back. He is falling back a little bit from the leaders, and he's got Darren catching him. So Darren has closed that gap in from about 4 seconds to just less than 2. So he is making ground up on Contrast. I think he's hoping for a podium here. Darren, he's got some pretty good pace. We thought he might be in for a chance of the win earlier on, especially when that rain was coming down, but as the track has dried up, he's not just quite had the raw pace of the likes of Norfolk Blue and Stuart McKenzie. Stuart McKenzie Norfolk Blue very close to Stuart McKenzie, but yeah, then we got a pretty big gap back to Pure Axel in 5th place, so 10 seconds back to him, and he's it's really Frio that he needs to worry about. I mean, Frio's got much younger tires, 4-lap younger tires than him, and it's only 4 seconds that gap, and Dubsy has actually managed to catch Frio and latch onto the back of him, so yeah, he's got some very good pace considering he's on older tires. Now we've got a couple guys in the pits, LGB in the pits and Piggott as well, so these guys, they have come in on lap 21, I think it's 20 for them, and they will go on the ultra soft tires. So we've seen that for both Piggott and LGB, and also Wimpernator. So these guys are going to be very quick towards the end of this race. Actually, Maznap possibly looking to jump 1 or 2 of them. Whereabouts are these guys in relation to Maznap? So Maznap does jump them, and he's up there into 10th place now. So he's finding his way into the points despite damage early on, and yeah, that's worked out pretty nicely for him. Those ultra softs really working well on that Toro Rosso. He's had some very good pace sort of quietly further back down the grid. So we hop on board with Dubsy. He's following Frio for 6th place. Very nicely through that final chicane there. Look at that, he's up to overtake. He's looking to make a move. Ooh, Frio, He's not quite sure which side of the track he wants to go for. Eventually decides he's just going to kind of let Dubsy have it a bit, and that will give him an opportunity just to follow along for a little while. Dubsy seems to have... Whoa, Frio very, very deep though, and that might have cost him the DRS to Dubsy. Can be very close. He certainly will not want to lose that. Dubsy seems to have some very, very good pace here at the moment. He does just about stay in the DRS, so it's crucial for Frio to stay in that slipstream of Dubsy. And he's run quite deep into there as well. Seems to be struggling a bit on the brakes, Frio. But yeah, I mean, it's critical for him to stay in that slipstream. And maybe with Dubsy's pace at the moment, it might be able to drag him further up towards pure axle. And then maybe Frio can get something done towards the end of the race as those guys' tires begin to struggle maybe in the final couple of laps. Supersofts are pretty consistent, but 25 laps is a long, long way for Dubsy to go. I'm sure we'll feel a little bit of that towards the end of the race. But yeah, Frio has managed to keep himself within that slipstream, so that seems to be the main point here for the drivers, is keeping themselves in the slipstream during this race, and making sure that they have that assistance from the tow and the DRS, and using that to kind of look after their car and their tires. Really has made a big, big impact. So that'll maybe be a note for all of you guys that are racing later on today, or maybe have a Canada race coming up soon, that yeah, the slipstream is incredibly powerful around here, more powerful than we've seen I think anywhere else this season. Different question asking if the Supers will reach until the end. Yeah, I think so. The Supers should definitely do about 25 laps. So these guys, Stuart McKenzie, Norfolk Blue, Contrast, I mean really the entire top 7 were expecting to go to the end of the race. I think the only person that I would expect to make another pit stop is Pete Crichton. I'm not quite sure what he's doing in terms of strategy at the moment. But yeah, I think he's the only person we're expecting to see back in the pit. So all these guys should be going to the end of the race on the one-stop strategy. I would certainly expect that. I mean, we might see somebody bail onto a set of ultras if they're struggling on their tires a bit. But I don't know, I mean, these Supersofts are almost bulletproof around here. As Norfolk Blue very close to Stewart again. Very late on the brakes as well. Almost runs into the back of him there as Stewart is trying to cut off the cut under a little bit there, basically parking his car on the apex. Actually does it very, very well. He's able to stop any kind of move here from Norfolk Blue. Although I'm sure the Norfolk Blue has been informed by Jeff that Stewart has some penalties, so he might not mind that too much. A little further back down, Frio in the tow from Dubsy, and they are closing. So that gap was 3.8 seconds the last time we were on board with these guys, and from Dubsy to pure axle, that is, and Dubsy is catching him just down to 2 seconds now. So we're going to get a 3-way fight, I think, for 5th place pretty soon. And as well, Darren is just in the DRS range now of Contrast. So this battle for the podium is about to heat up. Darren has got a tyre advantage by 4 laps. Obviously started on those ultra soft tires. Stuart McKenzie picks up another time penalty, and he's, it's not just a risk of him losing the race win, he's a risk of losing the podium here, depending on the number of penalties that Contrast and Darren have, because Stuart has a huge number of penalties. Yeah, all sorts of penalties coming in as Darren right up on the back of Contrast now. Seems to be the moment you get it within that DRS, the rest of the gap comes down pretty easily just because of how strong the slipstream is. Is Darren going to think about something into the final chicane? He does think about it. He doesn't go for it though. Just trying to put Contrast under a bit of pressure. Oh, he hits the wall, and Contrast is basically let him go. He's not got much energy, so he might just want to follow along as Darren says the fastest lap now. Very good lap from him, obviously with a bit of slipstream assistance, but yeah, he's been going very nice in this race. He's up to 3rd, but Contrast is, ooh, he's almost lost it there, running very, very deep. And has that dropped him out of the DRS? I think it has. Contrast might have just made a sort of podium-ending mistake right here. He does just have the DRS for this one, as his detection point is quite a bit earlier. He's going to have to burn pretty much everything that he has if he wants to stay in this DRS from Darren, and I don't think he's quite done enough. Look at that, it's 1.1 seconds, so that mistake from Contrast just lost him about half a second there, and that's dropped him out of it. And it's going to be very difficult for him now to keep with Darren on the fresher tyres. So we've got some battling here going on. Hold on a moment. Oh no, sorry, it's not battling, it's P. Crichton in the pits. He comes out on the Hypersoft compounded tyres, so there we go, there's his second pit stop. And he's right behind Mazna. He's going to be very, very quick at this point in the race. Oh, he's right up the inside. That's incredibly aggressive. I don't think Mazna was expecting that at all. And Pete Crichton does get the move done. Yeah, very, very bold move there. Pretty sure that he wants to get a move on, judging by that. He's got 6 seconds up the road to LJB in front of him, and yeah, brand new set of Hypersofts, that might be possible. As Dubsy now is on the back of Pure Axel. Yeah, looking a little bit further forward. Contrast is dropping back now from Darren, so Darren in a very, very good position to pick up this podium. But Dubsy, well within that DRS range of Pure Axel, and behind him we have Frio. So we do have this three-way battle for 5th. Not the position that Dubsy would normally want to be fighting for, but it's what he finds himself in today, as Masna picks up another time penalty. I mean, these positions could really all change, to be honest. So we've got some yellow flags in Sector 1. Not quite sure who that's for. As Stuart's looking at the inside in Norfolk Blue, these leaders battling away here. I'm just trying to give a couple of the other drivers a bit of screen time, but yeah, these guys kind of swapping positions pretty regularly. We'll hop back to them towards the end of the race and see who crosses the line for us there. But yeah, Dubsy now picks up a time penalty. I want to see if he's able to get past Pure Axel here. Not able to do so on this lap, but he does seem to have the best pace out of this little midfield group. Frio is hanging with him though with that slipstream, and yeah, it's slipstream proving to be a huge factor in this race. You know, the cars just kind of clustering up together for those that can maintain the slipstream, and those that can't. Contrast is dropping back quite a lot from Darren actually. Really starting to struggle a little bit, at least compared to the Sauber driver. But Dubsy with a bit of a scruffy exit out of the bridge chicane there, and Frio is right up behind him now. Dubsy really needs to make a move on Pure Axel as quickly as he possibly can, I think, and see if he's capable of pulling away, although he's kind of struggling to get close enough, so maybe that's not the case. Maybe he might wait until towards the end of the race. Saying that, he's very, very close to Pure Axel now. Pure Axel's had a poor run through the final chicane, and Dubsy's going to go up the inside. He does. And is he just about... Ooh, a bit of contact between the two of them. Pure Axel just had enough of his car alongside there to warrant space. Dubsy had to leave it for him, and he actually maintains the position. Wow. So yeah, I thought that was pretty much a done deal. Whoa, is they're very, very close together. Pure Axel locks up a little bit. Dubsy not quite able to get anything done. He'll look for a move on the exit. Bit of DRS along here as well. That's new this year. Frio just trying to avoid these two a little bit, battling very, very hard in front of them. It's Pete Crichton now nabs the fastest lap of the race on the Hypersoft tires. Yeah, Dubsy really hoping to get this move done and try and put a car between himself and Frio. Frio obviously with newer tires, so things will start to come towards him in these final few laps compared to Dubsy. Dubsy with very, very good raw pace around here, but you know, the tire will play a bit of a factor. See if Dubsy's able to get a really good run through the final chicane as well. He's absolutely demolished. Whoa, no. Pure Axel's lost it. He's in the wall, but he's just about held on at a huge moment. I think he's broken his wing. Judging by the understeer on that, let's have a look. Yeah, he has broken his wing. I thought he was going to take Dubsy and Frio with him for a moment there, but yeah, that's wow, that's really, really unfortunate for Pure Axel. He was doing so well in this race, and now he's in a really awkward spot. Although, I mean, he's got a huge gap back to LJB, so I think he can fit in a pit stop if he's able to make it back to the pits. And he'll be able to grab himself a new front wing and maybe hang on to that P7 or come out close to LJB and Pete. But yeah, it's not all totally lost for him. It's Frio pretty close to Dubsy now. Well, still, I should say. They have been together for about 15 laps. Yeah, we're onto lap 31 now. Bit of a battle going on here for the final points position. Piga has caught up to Maznap. Maznap just struggling a little bit to hang on to Pete. I think he's hoping that Pete's tires fall away. Quite a big gap between those two, but yeah, it's Frio getting pretty close to Dubsy as well into turn 1, but not close enough. Look at 2 leaders hitting every inch of the circuit, a little bit more, I think, a couple times in Stuart McKenzie's case. And this battle is... Oh! Norfolk Blue pulls out of the corner, lets Stuart McKenzie have it completely, and he wants to follow for a little bit. He's trying to get his tactics on as the Renault driver, I think. I'm not sure if he thought that Stuart McKenzie had locked up and was just trying to avoid what he thought was a car coming up his inside. It sure is very, very deep through the final chicane, though. He's going to go defensive to the inside, and he will just about hang on. Yeah, I think this is going to come down to penalties, to be honest. At least in terms of deciding the winner. I mean, it's been a pretty good battle between these two. It's been some good racing between them, but Stuart's just got way, way too many penalties, I think. I'll look a little further down. So Pure Axel has made it out of the pits. He is behind Pete Crichton, though. He's got brand new Hypersofts. He's going to make a move into the hairpin. Pretty sure he's going for it. Down the inside, just about gets alongside. There we go. Now it's all about the traction out of there. Oh, there's a bit of contact, though, between him and Pete. And Pete holds on. I'm not sure that Pure Axel would be very happy with that. Look at the slipstream, though. Look at the straight line speed he's got on that Mercedes. Absolutely flying along that straight. I thought he was going to have to wait until turn 1, but he's just mugged him into the final chicane. And he gets that done. And these guys have... who is this? Or is that MLGH's lapped car? Yeah, it is. So that explains the Ferrari there. So Norfolk Blue picks up a penalty. Yeah, now Pure Axel, he's got 1.2 seconds ahead of him up to LJB. And that's within a second already, as Dubsy and Frio are starting to battle. Frio's decided that now is the moment that he wants to start putting the Ferrari under a bit of pressure and go for this move. He's going to switch to the outside now. They're going to be side by side into the final chicane. Frio just about getting the nose ahead, and they are going to go side by side through it, and they do just about... Oh, no, not quite. Almost made it through cleanly. Bit of contact with the wall there for Dubsy. I don't know if he lost any wing, but Frio not quite able to get that move done, as Pure Axel is right on the back of LGB. Obviously brand new Hypersofts. He's flying in the moment, and he can push these as hard as he wants all the way to the end of the race. And look at the straight line speed in this Mercedes. I think he's barely got any wing on that car at all. He's just rocketing past them into the final chicane, and he will take that 7th place back. But as he sets the quickest lap of the race, and now Pete is down the inside as well, and he gets the move done in LJB as we go a little bit further up the field to Frio and Dubsy battling very hard. Not quite sure where these guys are in terms of penalties. This might have to be for the track position. Frio with a little bit more energy to play with. 2 laps left after this one. Obviously we've got Norfolk Blue and Stuart McKenzie battling up front, but Stuart McKenzie has a lot of penalties. So we'll keep an eye on Frio at the moment, as he's getting very close to Dubsy. Is he close enough to send it up the inside? Not quite. That would have been a bit too aggressive. He just backs out of it. So we will hop on board with Norfolk Blue. He might know that Stuart McKenzie has an extra penalty. He might not. So maybe we'll be looking for a move here. He's used a lot of energy. These guys both running pretty low. Both running very low, actually, considering where they are on the track, as they're catching up to Wimpernator. Wimpernator needs to let them through with the blue flags. He's going to be careful here as well, because he's got 2 cars coming to pass him instead of just 1. Mr. McKenzie getting a nice handful of slipstream and DRS off of Whippernator though, so that's going to protect him on this lap. Might make things a bit more difficult for Norfolk Blue to pass him. On track here, we do think Mr. McKenzie has quite a few more penalties, but Norfolk Blue needs to try and get something done, but he's really running out of energy. Is onto the final lap of the race, 35 out of 35. Beautiful exit there for Norfolk Blue, as he's just following Stewart here, looking for some kind of opportunity on the final lap. He's using a lot of his energy as well, so he might not actually have enough of it left. What does Stewart have? He has basically the same, so these guys are pretty much on even footing. Mr. McKenzie with the track position. Norfolk Blue will have the slipstream and DRS, and that's worth a lot. Has a really nice line through the bridge chicane as well as you come up towards the hairpin on the final lap. Very late on the brakes there for Norfolk Blue. He's actually locked up. That's a pretty critical mistake. He'll get a really good exit from that line, but he's lost quite a lot of time. I think Stuart McKenzie might just hang on to this on track for the moment. Norfolk Blue up there into overtake mode. He's got the slipstream, he's got the DRS, he's closing very, very rapidly. He's not quite close enough into there, and now through the final chicane, if he gets a really good exit, but he's not quite close enough. Ooh, almost loses the car, but Stuart McKenzie crosses the line first, and Norfolk Blue picks up the win by a whopping 11 seconds on penalties. Darren is going to come across the line and finish in third place. I think was a very satisfying podium for him. He's almost beat Stewart. Look at that, 2/10. He only needed 2/10. He would have had second place because of Stewart's penalties. Contrast will finish in fourth place. And now we've got Dubsy and Frio has actually passed Dubsy and maintained it. Whoa, Dubs very, very late on the brakes. Too late on the brakes. He nearly crashes into the back of Frio, and then he nearly puts it in the wall of champions as well. Frio grabbing a penalty there, but not enough, and he grabs fifth place. Dubsy in sixth. Pure Axel, after his incident, is going to salvage P7 from that, so not too bad. Considering the amount of damage that he had there. Maybe looking for a fastest lap here as well. See if he's able to get it. He had one earlier. He's not quite able to do that. I think his previous lap record will stand. B. Crichton finishes in 8th, LGB in 9th, and Bigger will cross the line for the final points paying position, we think, unless penalties plays a role. Maznat crossing in 11th, stays 11th, so Bigger does get the final point there. Yeah, Maznat outside of the points, he'll be very disappointed with that. But yeah, what an interesting race. Oh, the slipstream around here that was the main sort of point out of that, and it was incredibly powerful. A real sort of race decider and how to use that, and yeah, kind of an F1 2016 style race with that slipstream. So obviously we had the rain at the start of the race, spicing things up a little bit. Really, really chaotic first few laps, but Norfolk Blue takes the win. Here in Canada. Great drive from him. Stuart McKenzie had a pretty good drive as well, but just picked up way too many penalties. He's in second, and then Darren in third. Only 2/10 in the end off a second place, despite being nowhere near Stuart on track because of the number of penalties that he had. Contrast in fourth. I think the only driver on the grid not to pick up a penalty. That's very well done from Contrast there. Frio in 5th, Dubsy 6th, Pure Axel in 7th, Pit Creek in 8th, LGB in 9th, and Pigga in 10th. And then a couple guys finishing the race, but not quite in the points. Maznat, Whimpernator, and MLJH. And of course we lost Chucky, Entei, and Rumble earlier on in the race. But yeah, that is the 7th round here of the season. Norfolk Blue picks up his third win in 4 races. So yeah, really making a charge since joining this league, and certainly one to watch going forward. And in terms of the championship, I think that will jump him up above Frio as well. So I think Norfolk will head up to 3rd place in the championship. I think Contrast. Well, no, actually, no, the rest of it will stay the same. So yeah, Norfolk will jump his way up to 3rd after that very, very good result. The win here. But yeah, a couple other points to note. Darren's best result of the season, him on the podium today. It's his first podium. So well done to him. He had a very good race on that different strategy with the starting on the ultra softs. Took a huge gamble starting on them, considering the rain forecast for the start of the race. Turned out pretty well though. He was very quick in that first stint. And yeah, so that gamble paid off pretty well for Darren, and he's been rewarded with a podium for it and some very good pace. Um, and then Frio's strategy of going long on the tires in the first stint worked out pretty well. For him, he was able to hang on to the back of Dubsy and then mug him at the end of the race, and yeah, just had the extra tire life to fight with in those final few laps. But yeah, that was the seventh round of the third season of PS4 Oceania, and a pretty interesting race. Another one to add to that list of this season. Um, but yeah, I mean, just the slipstream around here, creating a really interesting situation where, you know, a situation where the following car has the advantage really over the leading car, polar opposite compared to what we had on F1 2017. But yeah, some very good battling up and down the field, and to be fair, only having one or two cars in the pits after that start, slick tires and damp conditions, was very well negotiated by pretty much all of the drivers, even though they were, you know, two, three, and four wide into various corners on the opening laps. But yeah, that's pretty much everything from this race. If you're hoping to watch a little bit more racing on the AOR channel, then you can head across and check out the Xbox stream. Um, those guys always have great racing over there, and then obviously we'll have the European and American leagues later on today. The European leagues, the top splits: PS4 is at 7 p.m., PC is at 8, and Xbox is at 9. And then every other tier, so F2 and below, will start at 8 p.m. And then also we have the PC American League, and that will run at about 1 a.m. Those, of course, are all in British standard times, so you might need to do some conversions to your time zones there. And obviously, as well, a big thank you to all of our sponsors at AOR, and especially Hub Energy for being the sponsors of the F1 League. And yeah, that's pretty much all from me. Hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll see you next week in Paul Ricard for the 8th round of the season. Brand new track on the calendar. It's a pretty interesting one. It's quite good fun to drive, and there should be a couple interesting strategies there as well. It's a pity we didn't really see too much of the two-stop here. I think the early rain put sort of an end to that. But yeah, should have some good strategies there as well. And I hope you all have a very good Sunday.